Hello everyone, I'm Jay Joshi and welcome to the 25th episode of Learning Java. Today, we'll be learning about insertion sort. So this is a sorting technique like how we have the bubble sort and the selection sort. Insertion sort is a sorting technique for one-dimensional arrays. So let's see how this insertion sort works. So let's say I have this array. So you can see this array and the numbers are not in any particular order. They're random. And we want to sort this array in ascending order. Now we can either do this by bubble sort or selection sort. But there's also this other technique called insertion sort, which is more efficient and faster than bubble and selection sort. And it's much better than both of them. But another point to note here is that you can use any kind of sorting technique. It doesn't really matter unless and until you're writing some massive code in which every milli microsecond matters, every point of memory matters, then you'll have to be considerate about what type of sorting you use. So coming back to insertion sort, I have this array. So you might remember in bubble sort, it checks adjacent elements. So it'll compare 54 and 26, then it'll swap, then again it'll compare adjacent, again it'll compare. In selection sort, it finds the smallest element, brings it to the first place. This is all in ascending order. So it selects the smallest and then keeps bringing it to the 0th index, first index, second index, third index, etc. So this is bubble and selection sort. Insertion sort is quite different. So this is an online sorting technique. Now, what an online sorting technique is when the user is entering the numbers are getting sorted as and when the numbers are getting entered. So you might know that in bubble sort, we need to have the full array already to sort the entire array. We can't have like four elements and then later we get four elements and then sort them separately. But in insertion sort, while let's say I, the user, am entering a particular number in online, in some program, insertion sort will work simultaneously while the user is entering. That's why it's a much better technique because it's an online sorting technique. So over here, so this is how, let's say we have the full array right now. This is the array. So what it does, it goes to the 0th index, which is 54, the number 54, and it compares it. So first, in the first pass, so this is the first pass, the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and so on. So in the first pass, it assumes, in the first iteration basically, it assumes the first element to be sorted, which isn't, but it just assumes it to be sorted. Now we go to the second pass, the second iteration. Over here, it looks at the first two elements. So in the first pass, it looks at the first element. In the second pass, it looks at the first two elements. In the third, it looks at the first three. So you can see how they're highlighted in gray. So in the second pass, and it checks the two elements, so the highlighted elements. So since it's in pass 2, it checks the two elements and whichever smaller, so like we are doing ascending order right now, so whichever smaller, it puts that in the first index. Then, so right now the first two elements are sorted. In the first pass, the first element was sorted. In the second pass, the second element is, first two elements are sorted. Now when it goes to the third pass, it looks at the third element as well. And then it sorts those three elements. So you can see how this is sorted. So since 93 was already there, it's there. You don't need any sorting. Then goes to the fourth pass. Over here, we add the number 17 and it sorts the first four elements. Then it goes to the fifth. It sorts the first five elements. Six sorts the first six. Seven sorts the first seven elements. Eight, nine, and so on. So till the array ends, it keeps sorting the particular individual values. It's a very simple technique. It's not that difficult at all. Now let me explain how this is an online technique. So let's say I, the user, am entering all these values one by one. So first I enter 54. As soon as I enter 54, the first pass gets done. So it assumes 54 to be sorted. Then when I enter the second value, which is 26, it sorts those two. Then when I enter the third value, 93, it sorts those three. So as I'm entering the values, it's sorting them. That's why insertion sort, as I mentioned, is a better technique than bubble and selection sort because it's online. Now, here's a quick explanation if you want to read through it about how insertion sort actually works. It's just what I explained. So every time it just sorts those particular elements. So in the first pass, it'll sort the first element, second pass, the first two elements, third pass, first three elements, and so on. And if it's descending order, it'll do it the other way around. It works either way. Now, let's see how the code of this insertion sort looks like. But what I want you people to do is first I want you to try and write the code for insertion sort based on the example I showed over here. Try to figure out the code and let's see if you get it. And after that, you look at this code. So I'm now showing the code, and you should ideally look at this after you've tried to written the code on your own. This will improve your programming habits. So here's the code if you couldn't get it or you want to like just check your code. This is the most shortest and simplest way of doing insertion sort. So what you need is this the array, and you need three variables. So I and j are for the for loop, and you need a temporary variable. So the first for loop, so this is a nested loop, and the first I loop you need as the outer loop, and the value of I starts with 1. And it starts with 1 and not 0 because we assume the first element to be started. So we don't have to start with 0, we start with 1 to save time. And over here, the variable t, it assumes the value as the smallest value. So with this entire j variable over here, so whatever is inside the I loop is basically the sorting of the internal elements. So when these, let's say in pass 3, when 26, 54, and 93 are getting sorted, all these three elements are getting sorted inside this part. So this is how the basic sorting works. So it checks, so it assigns the value of j 1 less than I. J should be greater than or equal to 0, obviously because it's an array, it can't be less than 0, the index. And if the temporary variable is less than a of j, so this is in ascending order. If this was in descending order, this would have been greater than, but it's ascending right now, so it's less than. And the value of j keeps on decreasing, and j should be greater than or equal to 0. And if it is, then it just swaps the values. So it's just basic swapping of values if the condition is true or false. And this is how you basically write the code. And over here, I'm just printing the final array if you just want to compile it and check if it works. So this is the basic code of insertion sort, and it's really a very easy technique, and it's an online sorter. And again, as I mentioned, you don't have to use the sorting technique. It's all depends on you. Whatever you find easier, use that for now. But again, if you're writing very complex codes, the best technique to use is sorting insertion sort because it's an online sorter. So that's it for today, everyone. Thanks for watching, and if you have any queries, doubts, or suggestions, you can mail me. My mail will be in the description down below. And thanks again for watching.